Hey everyone, today we're talking about how ancient Mesopotamians fought their wars. This isn't just about battles and weapons, it's about how war shaped the first civilizations and created powerful empires. In the beginning, wars were mostly small fights between city militias in places like Sumer. But as cities grew richer, conflicts over land and water turned into much bigger wars. Eventually, professional armies formed, leading to the rise of powerful military forces like Akkad, Babylon, Assyria, and Persia. The first recorded war happened around 2700 BCE, between Sumer and Elam, though people had probably been fighting long before that. Mesopotamia's geography made it an easy place for war to happen. The land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers was perfect for farming but hard to defend. With no mountains or natural barriers, cities were always at risk of being attacked. So many leaders decided the best defense was to conquer their neighbors first. The Sumerians were some of the first people to record their wars, and one of the most famous examples is the Stele of the Vultures. This monument from around 2600 BCE tells the story of a war between two cities, Lagash and Umma. It shows King Anatum of Lagash leading his army over their enemies while the gods were believed to be fighting as well. Back then, war wasn't just about power or resources, it was seen as part of the gods' plans. This war started over a piece of land between the two cities. A boundary stone marked the border, but the king of Umma, Ush, moved it and took the land. Open land was extremely important for farming and livestock, so this was a big deal. Anatum fought back, won the war, and restored the boundary, claiming he was doing it for his god Ninurta. Whether he truly believed that or was just expanding his own power isn't clear, but he didn't stop there. He kept conquering and created an empire. Sumerian soldiers used weapons like spears, axes, daggers, slings, and bows. Their chariots were big, slow, four-wheeled vehicles pulled by donkeys that carried extra weapons. At first, their armor was just leather, but by around 2500 BCE, they had bronze helmets, including the famous golden wig, one of the first metal helmets ever made. Their armies were well organized, with rows of spearmen forming tight formations, while slingers and archers attacked from a distance. War drums and shouted orders kept everything in sync. While these militias were strong, they couldn't compare to what came next, the army of Akkad. Sargon of Akkad, also called Sargon the Great, changed warfare around 2334 BCE. Instead of using city militias, he created a professional army, soldiers who trained all year. His forces expanded Akkad's borders into what is now Syria, Lebanon, and Iran. To keep control, he placed trusted people in charge of conquered cities and made sure his army was always ready. Sargon's army was highly skilled and well-equipped. His soldiers marched in rows 6 men deep, using large shields for protection. But the real game-changer was the composite bow. Unlike earlier bows, this one was made from layers of wood and bone, making it stronger and able to shoot farther. It was like the ancient version of inventing gunpowder, completely changing how wars were fought. As war tactics improved, so did weapons and armor. When metal helmets became common, battle axes were redesigned to break through them. Heavy chariots, once the center of battle, became less important as archers with powerful bows took over. Sargon even had scribes traveling with his army to keep track of supplies, prisoners, and battle plans. With these changes, Sargon conquered Mesopotamia and left a huge impact on history. His empire controlled trade routes and major cities, all because of his military power. While war continued for thousands of years in Mesopotamia, Sargon's ideas set the stage for even stronger armies in the future. And the Akkadian Empire had its time, but like all great powers, it eventually crumbled. The Gutians took over, but they weren't exactly known for strong leadership, so the Sumerians of the Ur III period saw an opportunity to reclaim the region. Ur-Nammu led this revival, modeling himself after Sargon of Akkad, but presenting a kinder, more fatherly image instead of a strict ruler. His son, Shulgi, followed his lead. He used smart military strategies to drive out the Gutians, but also encouraged diplomacy and stability. A poetic cycle called the Matter of Errata was written during this time, promoting peaceful resolutions to conflict. But, as history often goes, peace didn't last. By the 20th century BCE, the Amorites had moved in, taking control of important cities like Babylon. Hammurabi, one of the most famous Amorite kings, was more than just a ruler. He was a strategist. He carefully built up his army and formed alliances, like partnering with Larsa to defeat the Elamites. But once that threat was gone, he turned on Larsa itself, using tactics like cutting off water supplies or unleashing floods to weaken cities before attacking. By playing city-states against each other, he eventually controlled all of Mesopotamia, making Babylon the center of his empire. After conquering, he worked to stabilize the region, issuing his famous Code of Hammurabi and rebuilding what had been destroyed in the wars. However, his empire didn't last long after his death. The Kassites took control around 1595 BCE, ruling for centuries. Meanwhile, the Hittites were expanding with their own well-trained armies. Their king, Suppiluliuma I, defeated the Mitanni kingdom, which had controlled the Assyrians. With Mitanni out of the way, the Assyrians, under Adad-nirari I, took their chance to rise, laying the foundation for the powerful Assyrian Empire. The Assyrians weren't just another empire, they completely changed the way wars were fought. Tukulti-Ninurta. I defeated the Hittites and even sacked Babylon in 1245 BCE, bringing in so much wealth that it funded further military advancements. Later leaders like Tiglath-Pileser I strengthened both the economy and the military. The Assyrians became experts in siege warfare. They had engineers who built ramps, dug tunnels under city walls, and set fire to gates. They used huge, multi-story siege towers and battering rams to break through defenses, while archers provided cover. Their advanced tactics made them nearly unstoppable. Many rulers in history claimed that their gods supported their wars, and the Assyrians took this to another level. Earlier rulers like Sargon of Akkad had called on Inanna/Ishtar, and Hammurabi claimed Marduk as his guide. But the Assyrians made their god, Ashur, the supreme power behind their military campaigns. When Sargon II won an unlikely battle against Urartu in 714 BCE, he didn't take credit. He said Ashur had made it happen. But even the mighty Assyrian Empire fell. By 612 BCE, a coalition of Babylonians, Medes, and Persians took them down. Soon after, Cyrus the Great built the Achaemenid Empire, which grew even larger. Then came Alexander the Great, who defeated the Persians and set up the Seleucid Empire. One empire fell, and another rose, each borrowing military strategies from the past while adding new ideas. But through all these changes, one thing stayed the same. Leaders always claimed their gods were on their side. Whether it was Sumerian rulers calling on Ninurta, or later conquerors invoking their own deities, the pattern repeated over and over. No matter the time period, history continued in a cycle of conquest and divine justification, just as it had for over 4,000 years.